Hey everyone, Jay Whitner with Space Headlines. We do a summary each week of what's going on in space, and today we're going to be talking about the third week of January 2019. Our first item has to do with China. As we mentioned before, China has a mission right now on the face of the moon, and one piece of the mission was to try to grow some little plants from seeds on the moon. And they were successful at that with one of the seeds that they sent up there did sprout and begin to grow. But the experimental chamber was not temperature controlled, so they knew all along that when lunar night arrived, it would be too cold for the plant to survive. So as anticipated, the plant died when the lunar night came. But during the experiment, they did unveil images over a 9-day period of this thing growing. There were apparently 3 different types of seeds involved in the experiment. Only one of the types germinated in this first attempt, and it was the cotton seed was the one that succeeded. SpaceX announced they're moving some of the work on the test version of the Starship. That they're going to be doing the work in Texas instead of in California. And the development of the real vehicle and the Raptor engines of the final flight vehicle will be happening out in Hawthorne, California. But the work on this test vehicle is going to be done in Texas. And partly what they're saying, the reasoning behind this is that it's a very large item, and it just didn't make sense to build it in California, ship it to Texas for testing, and that sort of thing. So they're just going to be making these, perhaps there may be several of them, I guess, these test vehicles in Texas instead of in California. Great news on Hubble. Hubble is back in business. Despite the government shutdown, the NASA types were able to get Hubble going again. And they believe that, based on what they found, that the telescope will be good through 2025, possibly even beyond 2025. But they're pretty confident of that figure, at least. Hubble is now 29 years old and has been a great boon for all of humanity to see, where we fit into the universe. So, great news about Hubble. Stratolaunch. We talked about Stratolaunch in our last program, that the aircraft is having high-speed taxi tests and will probably be flying soon. The news, though, is if you look at this image here, beneath the aircraft, there are several different types of space launch vehicles that their idea had been to develop this whole series of vehicles to work with the aircraft to take things up in space. But what they're saying now is they want to focus on the aircraft and working with the existing Pegasus rocket, as opposed to developing these 3 vehicles that I guess you'd call it in the lower right of the image. So Stratolaunch will be able to carry 1, 2, or 3 Pegasus rockets aloft at a time for deployment. And this presumably will simplify the timelines and the budget, because the Pegasus is an existing rocket. So they'll be able to focus all their energy on, final development of the aircraft, as opposed to splitting the funds between aircraft and those other 3 vehicles depicted there. The Delta IV rocket had a good launch. It launched a spy satellite from Vandenberg Air Force Base. And naturally, there's not a lot of detailed information about spy satellite launches, but the launch appeared to go fine. And it is thought to contain a Block 5 KH-11. So this would be the latest, greatest keyhole spy satellite, is what they think might be in this payload. So congratulations to the Delta IV team for getting this done. And another nice launch for ULA. Speaking of ULA, they are the developers of their upcoming Vulcan rocket. And the news on this is they're coming up on their final design review for the Vulcan rocket. Everything seems to be looking really good for that. And the idea here is that this new vehicle could have its first flight in 2021. is the current timeline on that. And the novel aspect of the Vulcan is that it will be a partially reusable system. And what they're going to do is they're going to recover the engines only from the first stage for reuse. So it's not recovering the whole first stage like SpaceX is doing, but recovering just the engines. And their philosophy behind this is the engines are the complicated, high-value component of the first stage. So they feel that by saving that part, they're getting the biggest part of the value of the first stage. European Space Agency is thinking hard about lunar mining. And they're laying some groundwork for this, figuring out how they want to do it. And the big news is they issued a contract to Ariane for planning and designs for a lunar mining facility. So they want to go, they want to mine stuff on the moon, probably a variety of things over time, but apparently the early targets are getting water and oxygen from the moon. And they want to be doing this by 2025, which is only 6 years from now. So this is exciting news to start leveraging our space efforts by using some of the resources that are already there. Although we've been going to space for a very long time already, for over 50 years, we haven't used any space resources really in anything we've done except sunlight. So we need to start doing that. And I'm delighted to see that ESA is working in this regard and considering doing something like this. That's it for our coverage for the third week of January 2019. We'll see you in a week or so, and we'll talk about what's happening in the next week. Talk to you then.